So a couple days ago, the yearly streamer awards happened, and there was a lot of drama. Quite honestly, it was fun as a viewer to see a lot of the drama that is inevitably going to come up in these award shows. It doesn't matter if it's going to be some of the most popular award shows in the world. There's going to be some sort of drama out there, whether it's the Grammys, Oscars, whatever. And streamer awards is no different in my opinion. So I was excited to see what would come up this year, and a lot of it was juicy. A lot of people did also get awards, like Kai getting 4 and the Speed getting 2 and Streamer of the Year. Shout out to them. But the big things that came up, or the big dramas that came up, were surrounding India Love and her dumbass move of going on stage after Adapt won his award to say that Rakai and DDG should have won, even though Adapt had as much of a good year. And it was just incredibly goofy, in my opinion. That was one of the big dramas. She got escorted out and people laughed at her and people are flaming her, and she started crying about how she's addicted to alcohol or whatever other excuses people make when they mess up terribly bad. But yeah, that was one. And the other was, I think, the bigger one that's leading to the conversation of the entirety of the video. And that's a streamer named FanFan making a Diddy joke and dissing Streamer University. Now, a lot of people are like, oh my God, FanFan, you shouldn't have made that joke. I think the joke was fine. I think the bigger problem is the person making the joke. I like FanFan. I think she seems like a cool person. But, you know, not everyone is a comedian. Not everyone is as good at, you know, making people laugh at certain moments. And a lot of it has to do with not being able to practice as much as comedians have to practice to get good at their craft. Family is just a streamer, so yeah, she's not going to be the best at making these jokes. She's surrounded by so many different people. Like, that's a lot of pressure on anyone. And I commend her for being one of the only people that would ever do it anyway. But obviously, people were offended. And it's understandable. Kai doesn't have to like the joke. No one has to like a joke that is geared towards them. The reaction of Ty Lil, one of Kai's friends, was to, you know, make a joke that was also honestly pretty funny, and being like, listen, if you're gonna go on stage and you're gonna talk, at least be funny. And I'm not even mad at him for saying that joke. Quite honestly, I think maybe he didn't need to. But I mean, it's content at the end of the day. I don't think what he said was that bad. And, you know, when you hear Tyler explain a little bit more on the stream, it's like, you know, she could have then went back and roasted him. But the problem is she's not a comedian, so she doesn't know what to do in those situations. You know, if it was a guy that is practicing comedy, maybe he could have done it. And I hope QT, for future events, you know, keeps this style. I hope she hires someone that can actually banter, you know, that is practiced in this field, so that, you know, when that happens, someone can respond and be like, hey, listen, who are you? You know, it could have been an easy who are you joke, you know. But I think the bigger issue is another one of Kai's friends, and this is the serious stuff. While in the bathroom, a big or medium-sized streamer named the stock guy, he does stocks, I guess. I don't know. He does stocks. He went to the bathroom and he overheard a conversation of Dez talking terribly about FanFan, and him. The stock guy says he overheard, you know, Dez saying that he would break her teeth in, calling her all types of B words and and swearing her out. And then an even more serious thing, other than I'm gonna break her teeth in, is that he said something about an essay situation. That's the stock guy overheard him about essaying. Stock guy says, oh, well, I asked, are you okay? And then one of the other friends said, no, he's just from New York, he's cool. So that was a big, terrible thing that I think happened. I think if your reaction to a joke like that, maybe a little bit of poking fun, okay, but if your reaction is like threatening to beat her up or getting angry, so angry that you're gonna say you're gonna beat her up, I don't care how drunk you are, that's ridiculous. And other streamers in general didn't really feel right about that situation, but no one knows who that it was absolutely Des, or that he even said it for real. You know, XUC talked about it, Asman talked about it, Asman Gold talked about it. So then Des, he, you know, responds finally, and what he has for his response, in my opinion, I think is terrible.
And I said verbatim to Ralphie, I said, bro, she sucked cod with teeth. Bad don't use teeth when they giving the sloppy toppy. The reason why I'm describing it like that, because you jumped out there and cracked a joke. Even if you read it off some shit, you should know, don't allow yourself to do something like that, because it's not a game.
Some of his arguments here are just weak, in my opinion. I think, and a lot of that has to do with, okay, so you're agreeing with him that you were there. You're agreeing with him that there was some sort of sexual talk in the conversation about teeth, and all of these things are true, but conveniently all the things that make you look bad are missing out of that conversation. Listen, I don't care how much you're from New York. I've lived in New York. If someone says they'll break your teeth in, there's not other ways to interpret that. It doesn't matter if you're from New York or not. So like the stock guy said that you said that thing, and you're saying, well, no, he misinterpreted me because I'm from New York. But it's like, how do you misinterpret someone saying they would break your teeth in? And your argument of like, oh, I would never even say that, doesn't sound cool. That's not a good argument. You understand that. That also brings up this argument of,
I would go like, and then it's like, why do you call the authorities if I made them heinous threats, like them crazy? Why do you call the authorities to remove me like I remove somebody else out the awards when they jumped out there? When somebody jumped out there and did how they felt, why y'all removed them? Why you didn't get me removed? Because you know I didn't say that. You lying ass, grown ass man.
And this fails too, because just because a thing happens that is bad and you overhear it doesn't mean that your initial response would be to call the police. And even if you did call the police, it doesn't mean that the police would do anything, because some situations the police can't just do anything they want because you said to do it. No, that's not how police works. Like, you have to commit a crime, and that's saying you'll do a thing unless it's egregious, like bombing or something like that, doesn't mean that you're gonna get in trouble for that thing. You know, a lot of people just, their national reaction will be to, oh my god, this happened in the bathroom, I'll tell my friend, I'll tell this person happened to tell their stream. So a lot of Dez's arguments just seems to fall flat, especially given the context of him being a known crash out in general, and him saying things like this. So when you say things like this, and when the stock guy says, I heard you say a thing like this, it's just going to be really believable that it was you. Now, if it was Kai Cenat and stock guy's like, oh, I saw Kai do this. All right, that's bull. We all know Kai probably didn't say that. Yeah, I mean, and also the bigger thing is, like, why would the stock guy lie about this? He's no incentive. You're not the biggest streamer. You're not like even that medium-sized of a streamer. You're okay. I mean, you're fine. You're doing good. But a lot of that is because of Kai and the friend group. Why would he pick you? It doesn't really function. It doesn't really make any sense. And he also didn't really even call your name out. People heard that context and were like, oh, immediately they were like, it's probably Dez. He didn't even say your name. you know, he later confirmed that was the guy because he didn't know his name and he saw his face. So, you know, in my opinion, it doesn't seem like Dez is being very honest in these conversations, and it seems like the stock guy might just be telling the truth, quite honestly. But how do you guys think about the situation? I'd like to hear your opinions, and comment and subscribe. See you later.